They fucking got fucked for Carson Wentz.
Yo, hold the phone. All right. What up, nerdy? This is your nerdy sports host, Tim. We're back with another jam-packed podcast. We're going to talk about all the quarterback movement in the NFL. Recent trade was Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts for what Rohan calls a bag of chips, and that's about it. So I'll let him describe first. We got our co-host, Scotty Tuhati Pierce, and Rohan Kulkarni coming out of Vancouver. I'll burn it to the other Philadelphia Eagles fan in Rohan to let me know what he thinks about the Eagles' perspective. What do you think they got for Carson Wentz, a guy that they drafted in the first round in 2016, just a few years ago? What are your thoughts on this trade?
I think it's one of the worst trades. They're taking the full $30 million cap hit. They're getting a third-round pick and possibly a first next year if he plays well.
Mm-hmm.
This, yeah, I don't know. It feels like the front office has really let everything just slip away here.
Good old Howie doing it again to you, right? Bless his heart. All right, man. So, Scotty, going back to the perspective of your rival believes that if you make a good move or a bad move and you're happy about it, it ends up being a bad move. So, as a New York Giants fan, do you feel it was a good move or a bad move? Are you happy as a Giants fan, not just a football perspective? What do you think about it from a New York Giants perspective?
From a Giants perspective, I'm pretty happy. I got to say, I feel like the rest of the NFC East, Washington didn't make a move to fix their quarterback situation.
Mm-hmm. With the Philadelphia Eagles, you never know. When they pulled Jalen Hurts in the last game, not like it really mattered too much. They were just choosing between a 6th pick and a 9th pick, I believe. You really never know with that. And you don't want to reveal your cards. As an Eagles fan, I feel Jalen Hurts is good enough to win 9 or 10 games. But is he a Super Bowl guy? Probably not. I really hope they don't draft a quarterback this year, but maybe they will. It's always a good pick to choose a quarterback, but I think he's good enough. But what were you saying, Scotty? Okay. Sorry for cutting you off.
Whether we think he's a Super Bowl quarterback or not, they gave him a 2nd round pick. And to me, I would say at least top 2 is the cutoff. You could argue 3rd round, that if you draft in the first 2 rounds, then you're committed to that guy. You put too much draft capital on it to not be committed, which caused some of the problems in the beginning. How much did that upset Carson Wentz in the whole locker room? The fact that they didn't try in the end, it doesn't matter about the pick. They lost the locker room. You saw immediately the next week how many players were coming out and were furious about it. Were furious at the coach. Probably got Doug Peterson fired because of it.
Yeah.
When maybe he was the only thing holding the Eagles together. Maybe he was the glue looking back. I don't know. So that, and now they're saying today that, well, it's not guaranteed to be his job. We're going to have a quarterback competition. Well, who is the competition against? Are you implying you're drafting a quarterback in the 1st round? Or are you going to draft a quarterback in the 5th round and compete against him? Like, there's so much confusion. That's just you going into chaos. And I love it when my rival is in chaos because no team in chaos can win. Even the most talented teams, you see these teams that are super talented that fail when they're in chaos. You're better off with a team with less talent, but that has a good winning culture. And you'll see that in the NBA a lot of times too. The Nets before they got the talent. You had the winning culture, you could play well. Remember when the Eagles had that super roster like 8 years ago? And they were talking about how they were going to go undefeated and they had all these Pro Bowlers and then they didn't make the playoffs. You have to be on the same page. You need a winning culture. Right now they're in chaos. The Cowboys don't know who their quarterback is. Washington doesn't really have a quarterback. So I feel good as a Giants fan.
Yeah. Coaching situation doesn't even make me feel better. It's like, if we got like a fucking decent coach, like we got a Ron Rivera or we got like a decent coach who is like, experienced and was like, you know what, I'm going to be that, focal. We got like a 32-year-old, guy from the Indianapolis Colts. Like,
yeah, damn. Scotty, maybe you're right. Maybe the Giants are in the best situation. Joe Judge is probably the best coach in the NFC East. I mean, Ron Rivera is pretty solid, but I don't know. I like Joe Judge. I like what he could do.
And they got Daniel Jones. He's decent enough. He can he can clock. He's like Eli. He'll clock manage. He'll make a couple plays, couple runs here and there. Like, he's perfect. Like, getting Saquon back, like, the defense is going to keep improving. And if Dak comes back and Dak is healthy and he can do something, I think the Cowboys might be up there or could be actually the Redskins, who might get a scarier defense next year. So
they probably have one of the best defensive lines in the whole game with Chase Young. So that's
this
definitely
is the first year going in. I'm like, wow, the Eagles are going to be at the bottom of the basement, and like we can't draft well. We're not going to get any free agents because we're over the cap. So it's like we're fucked.
Right. I have more faith in the New York Mets and the New York Knicks than I do in the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Watching all these offseason moves, I'm like, damn, like they're actually doing something here.
Yeah, and I think Carson Wentz is like a top 5 quarterback. Like potential top 5. Like that's his ceiling. And like behind that offensive line of the Colts and with a running game, couple of receivers, right? Like he might be like having a great year where he's in like MVP discussions, and he might even take them to that Super Bowl because Chris Ballard, he definitely like outmaneuvered Howie Roseman. Like you saw it, like how he was the first couple of days, like, oh, it's between the Bears, the Broncos, and the Colts, and it was that no one really was that interested. Didn't even get a first round pick. Couldn't get rid of any of that dead cap money.
Yeah, worst dead cap hit in NFL history. And if you go back to Frank Reich's season, so Frank Reich's the Indianapolis Colts head coach. He was the offensive coordinator for Carson Wentz when he had his best season. He was a top 5 quarterback in 2016-2017 season. I definitely agree. Quentin Nelson's one of the biggest monsters in the game, and having Jonathan Taylor as your running back right behind you. They have Paris Campbell and T.Y. Hilton, a couple of good wide receivers. I mean, all he needs, I believe, 75% of the snaps. If you play 75% of the snaps, the Eagles get a first-round pick. So if you're an Eagles fan, you want Carson Wentz to do well. But I got my Pennsylvania shirt on.
Him do well, dude. That's the part. It's gonna suck because this could have all been like. Listen, all he wanted was them to build around him. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round. Fine, sure. Maybe he wasn't the one we wanted, but then in the second round, you go get him some offensive lineman, or you go get him something else.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. I mean, they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, and they had Carson Wentz. They had Doug Peterson, and none of them are there anymore. It's a completely different team, and they were able to, the Indianapolis Colts were able to fleece them because of what Scotty said. They're in chaos. So it's like when somebody's in chaos, you're not going to make a good deal. You're going to take advantage of them. So Scotty, let me give you one crazy stat. So we have 22 quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round between 2009, when Matthew Stafford was drafted number 1 overall, and 2016, when Jared Goff and Carson Wentz were drafted in the first round. None are with the original team who drafted them. What do you think about that stat? And, give me a little perspective on those 3 quarterbacks.
Well, let me just finish off on the part on the Colts end. I think I 100% agree that they got a steal. I think Carson Wentz is going to do really well. He's got Frank Reich back. The team is pretty stacked. I think that's a steal for them. And worst case, if he doesn't do that well, it's not that much. If he plays bad, it's the second and a third. It's not going to kill you. Your team's still young. You could rebuild the next year. And if he plays well, you're gladly giving up that first rounder and the third. So it's kind of a win-win for them. And I think on a side note, if I was Washington, I would get on the phone and try to get Sam Darnold, because I think you could get him for an absolute steal.
Oh, yeah.
He's better than what you have now. And I think his stock went down so much because Carson Wentz got traded for so little that people are going to be like, well, if he's only worth a third and a second, then you should be able to get Sam Darnold for like just the third by himself, maybe. And he's still super cheap. If you're Washington, the rest of your roster, you could win the NFC East easily with just Sam Darnold. I truly believe that. But I'll go back to your big picture, and this connects stacks. We're talking about trades and whatnot. And to me, I think the biggest thing is you could say the NFL is completely different now. It's changed. This is not the NFL of 10 years ago. I can't even say like your dad's NFL because that implies like more than 10 years ago. I'm going to say this is like your older brother's NFL. Like, this isn't even your older brother's NFL. The NFL is now a 24/7 league, or a 365 league, I should say, because trades have become such a big thing, and free agency. And I remember, 10, 15 years ago, there was some free agent action. Trades basically didn't exist. People, I don't even remember when the trade deadline was because nobody made trades, especially in the midseason. Like nobody cared about the trade deadline. Like the NBA always had the trade deadline trades. NFL was like, that didn't even exist. And now we have this pseudo NBA, like particularly just for quarterbacks, mostly at least, maybe not everybody else, where they're even requesting trades. I mean, Matthew Stafford said he didn't want to play for the Patriots. When in the history of the NFL would a player be able to not only request a trade, but also be able to say, and I don't want this as my team? Like an NBA player being like, I'll play here, here, and here. Like the NFL is completely different, and it makes it so exciting and fun for the consumer because we're sitting here on the eve of the NBA All-Star game. We're sitting here with the NBA going mid-season. We're opening a show on the NFL because the NFL off-season is now so exciting. It used to be 2 months of dead time. Now I'm like excited, checking my news every day. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Who's going to get traded? When's Deshaun Watson going? When's Sam Darnold going?
Yeah.
What are the Bears going to do? Are they going to be left with nobody? They get rid of Mitch Trubisky. Maybe who's left on the table? It's exciting. It's fun. I love it. The idea that no quarterback. You just started with the stat. You said no quarterbacks in 2009, 2016. I believe you said.
Yep.
0-22.
0-22.
Super exciting for the fans.
Especially if like people like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson start making moves, like then it's going to open up a whole new. People were speculating that in the beginning, and I think Aaron Rodgers, he's a sneaky guy. I think he might, sooner or later, he might wait for the draft and then be like, you know what, I'm not feeling it because
they skip another wide receiver that he wanted, right? It's like how many times are you gonna screw me, guys?
And none of the free agents are coming there. Like what free agents? It's like Tom Brady. He signed Antonio Brown. He signed, Gronk. Like those are two Hall of Famers that played for a minimum, but they were able to come there. And I think people like Russ and Aaron are looking around, are like, damn, like we need to be able to do that. Like go to a team. Like that's why Matthew Stafford wanted to go to LA, because there are stars on that defense. Like there is Aaron Donald, there is Jalen Ramsey, and it's like,
sure.
I think now that players are getting more sort of exciting, that is exciting. Because you know what? It's becoming a quick turnaround time. And maybe the guy that you root for, like an Aaron Rodgers, now you have a possibility of trading for him or getting him in free agency.
So you mentioned Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Let me ask you, how much of this do you think has to do with Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl? And you mentioned he bought in players. All the touchdowns were scored by new players. Fournette, 2 by Gronk, 1 by Brown. And that the other guys are like, well, if he can do it, then I could do it. When maybe they might have bit their tongue a year ago, or even if the Patriots lost, and they're like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. Now they're like, wait, you can just change teams and win a Super Bowl in your first year. It's just like the NBA. Why shouldn't I do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the fun part, because you know what? That's going to make organizations, like no one's loyal. Like JJ Watt was like, I'm fucking out of here. Like you saw him, JJ Watt's a great player, and he like was loyal to Houston till the end. Like after all the shit that their owner said about, all the racist slurs and this and that, he stuck by Houston, and he was a Texan by and by. And like, he was like, peace out. Deshaun Watson's out of there. Like, yeah, I think it's going to get a lot more exciting, where if organizations aren't performing, people are going to want to just leave. And you saw it with the Carson Wentz thing. And I think we're going to see more and more of it.
Yeah, you guys bring up a lot of amazing points. I love you. You're making me so much smarter here, and I'm sure our nerdy sports audience is going to appreciate this. I'm so glad to bring you guys on board, talking sports like this for decades to come, hopefully. And it reminds me of the NBA completely. Like there's so many parallels right now. Draymond Green just came out with a statement talking about player empowerment and how everybody ridiculed James Harden for tanking when he was in Houston because Houston wouldn't give him anything. They gave him Russell Westbrook and all that, and Chris Paul, and they honestly tried to do everything possible to keep him around. But from James Harden's perspective, he was like, yo, this team's dog shit, even though they're pretty solid with DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall and Christian Wood and whatever. But his statement was basically like, hey, I want out. I'm going to tank. I'm out. And when a team wants to trade me, if I don't show up in tip-top shape, if I don't, come to the game ready to go every single day, then I'm the bad guy. But when we flip it around and I take advantage of my leverage because I'm a top 5, top 10 player in the NBA, then that's a problem. And Draymond Green's like, what's the deal with that? And LeBron James backed him up. Similar to what you're saying about Tom Brady, that's like the LeBron James way, right? He brings guys like Marc Gasol in. He's always been recruiting guys like James Jones, just those little role players to build those championship teams. That's what Tom Brady did. And all of these players are like, yeah, we could do that. Just like Scotty said, like everybody was new. They literally built a fantasy team and we counted them out, or at least I did, like week after week. I'm like, are they really going to do it? They're going to keep on doing it. Rohan's like, no, don't bet against Tom Brady. Don't bet against Tom Brady. And look at what I did. I picked Aaron Rodgers to beat him. I picked, obviously Patrick Mahomes to beat him. And I was like, yeah, the O-line's going to be an issue, but he's going to throw amazing passes. And he did. He literally hit guys in the freaking face mask, but it wasn't good enough. And the Buccaneers just absolutely torched them. Dude, we see blowouts all the time in the Super Bowl, but it was just completely disappointing to watch that. And here he is, Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl, 7th Super Bowl. And why not Russell Wilson do it? He's running for his life. And he's got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And, Pete Carroll's a solid coach, but they cannot figure out this defense for the life of them. And same with the Packers. The only time the Packers were actually able to make the Super Bowl is when they had a really good defense. Even last year, they couldn't stop anybody, and Tom Brady torched them. It was incredible, man. There's so many parallels between the NBA and NFL. Our offseason podcast last year was talking about all of the movement with quarterbacks and Patty Mahomes making like $500 million. And, now they're making NBA money. Now they're making NBA transactions. And why not put a couple of guys together, take advantage of a Fournette and Antonio Brown, guys in chaos, but value prospects, and put them on your team.
Fournette and Dominic Shu, he came on the team for the veteran minimum. And he's like, you know what, whatever, I'm coming in. We're going to win a Super Bowl. And they just put a band together. I fucking loved it. And never bet against Tom Brady. If you look at all the passes, the one thing I've learned about Tom Brady, he is Mr. Consistent. If you looked at all his touchdowns, it was to Gronk and to AB. And the passes to Gronk were ones that he's thrown a million times before. It was, I think, a post out, from the middle. And he hit it. And consistency. These guys are fucking amazing.
And he was wide open. And it was like, okay. Cake. Yeah. They scripted it just as they wanted it to happen. It was like the Eagles going against the Patriots. There were a couple of plays where it was like, yep, that was just great, brilliant play calling. And Todd Bowles had unbelievable play calls to keep Patrick Mahomes on the move. If you look at the pass chart, it was like Patrick Mahomes was throwing from every single spot in the field. And Tom Brady was like a pendant. It was like every single time was the same exact spot. It was right in the pocket, right in the pocket, right in the pocket, straight consistency. And if you got the greatest of all time, not getting pressured like he would with Osi Umenyiora, Justin Tuck, and Michael Strahan coming after him, and guys like Fletcher Cox coming after him, you can't beat him. And why would I think the Chiefs defensive line would be able to compete? I don't know. Football makes me feel like a fool sometimes.
Football is definitely in the probability charts. Football has the highest sort of unpredictability. That's why you never gamble on football.
Well, isn't it so much fun?
Well, speaking of gambling, I will tell you, Vegas does like the trades too, because Colts get Carson Wentz, their odds changed from plus 2,900 to plus 2,000. So they went up almost by about 30% increase there. And the Rams, go back to January 30th here, their odds went from plus 2,000 to plus 1,100, almost half.
Wow.
So Vegas is not the only one that like the trades. Vegas likes the trades.
That would have been a steal if you got them before the trade. Wow. And they're definitely Super Bowl contenders.
Oh, yeah. Scotty had them last year with Goff.
Dude,
because
honestly, they might have if he was healthy, if he had a good thumb.
Absolutely.
He came back, he beat Russ. At the end of the day, sometimes you're like, you know what, you just need a guy who can be consistent.
And the aggressive goes the spoils. The NFL is more and more aggressive as part of the trades. It's like people realizing, okay, Tom Brady comes in, win a Super Bowl. People like, I'm just going to go all in. They're pushing a chip to the center, make the trade. I'll figure it out later. Worst case scenario, I have to deal with it later, but I want to win now. Kick that can down the road, cap hell, whatever, making trades, being aggressive. I'm not going to sit around and keep my quarterback for 5 years. Blake Bortles got like 5 years in extension. Why? I don't know. Good day not to be an Eagle fan.
Maybe the Eagles should draft a first round quarterback. I like Zach
No,
Wilson
I
a lot.
actually I
don't know.
I was listening to a podcast and they were
Okay.
saying that it was the two Jalen Mills and Jalen Rager. They were both on this podcast. It was the Adam or the Lefko show, and
Sure.
they were saying that he basically is a really good, like he's a stud. Like
Hurts.
they believe that he's gonna.
Yeah, I like the kid.
I think yeah, we should give him a year. I think he looks like he's a gamer and a winner. As long as we don't.
At least he bought in. Wentz wouldn't even talk to Peterson. It was a complete chaos. Like, I like the move from a chemistry perspective. Just get all toxicity out of it. Clean house. Whatever you got to do. They cut Deshaun Jackson today. Not like he's like, a chaos or anything. But I don't know. Bring in guys that Hurts is going to work with. Hurts and Hurts, like make that the combo. Like I'm all about it, man. And with NFL movement, now all of a sudden every single NFL jersey, every single NFL shirt I have is going to be like washed, just like all these NBA jerseys. People are moving around all the time, and that's why there's jersey replacements and whatnot. But if you got like a guy like Matthew Stafford, like he had Megatron, he had like Kenny Galladay. People say that Matthew Stafford's one of the most talented quarterbacks they've ever seen. And his career records in 165 games, 12-year career, he has 74 wins, 90 losses, 1 tie. He's thrown for 45,000 yards, 282 touchdowns, 144 interceptions on 63% completion percentage. And he's only made the Pro Bowl once. He's drafted 11 years ago, 12 years ago, and he only made the Pro Bowl once. And people say like he's one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time. You go to the Detroit Lions, you get guys like Barry Sanders and Megatron and Matthew Stafford, and you can't take advantage of that. Like, I'm all about player empowerment. Get out of these toxic environments. Deshaun Watson, please find a good team. Like, I just want to see all these talented players with good organizations that are going to take advantage of their talents. And combining somebody with a beautiful minded head coach like Sean McVay, all power to them. As long as Aaron Donald can wreak havoc up the middle and use that beautiful footwork and power he's got to win maybe his, I think, 4th defensive player of the year would be record. Gosh, that would be absolutely incredible.
JJ Watt should have won it. I agree with
I hear
not JJ. It was
TJ Watt was second. Yeah, he had like 22 votes. I do agree. Yeah. It was close. But Pittsburgh, I think from a holistic perspective, kind of struggled at the end of the year, and we very short mind spans. We forget things real quickly, and all of a sudden, I think that motivates media voters to change their opinion and be like, "Oh, Aaron Donald, he brought them to the playoffs." Of course, yeah, but
that's so dumb. Like, it should be about credentials. What are your stats?
That's why Giannis won't win MVP this year. It doesn't matter. Like, his numbers are pretty high up there. And right now they're using the offseason. Well, not the offseason. They're using the regular season as like an offseason. They're like, well, all right, we got trashed by the Miami Heat in the playoffs because they just trapped Giannis and we couldn't do anything about it. We have to make sure we get a guy like Drew Holiday, a point guard, and make sure that Giannis doesn't control the ball as much as he did the last couple of years when he had amazing stats. And he still has unbelievable statistics. Giannis is averaging 28 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 56% shooting, 28% from 3. The guy really needs to stop shooting threes, even though 30% is fine. But I don't know if you guys want to transition to the NBA. I got my LeBron James jersey behind me. LeBron James and Kevin Durant were announced as the NBA All-Star team captains. And they're going to draft their teams on March 4th. The NBA All-Star game will be March 7th. And the reserves will be announced on February 23rd. Now, this is February 19th right now as we are recording this podcast. We all love Kevin Durant as well. And unfortunately, he's injured. But the Nets were still able to beat the Lakers. Yeah, he's been out a couple of games.
Is he injured or did they pull him?
Nah, he's been injured, right, Scotty? No AD, no KD.
Last time I spoke about the Nets, couple of times I spoke about the Nets, I was not high on them. I'm starting to like what I see. Obviously, one game does not make the season, but they played defense for the first time in what feels like a while. They won 5 road games in a row, which is the most since I think they said 2008. So that was pretty impressive. Anytime you do a West Coast road trip, particularly, that's really impressive.
Sure.
And it seems like the biggest negative is that they're gelling a little bit, but they're not gelling because they don't have the stars playing at the same time. So even though they're looking pretty good on a winning streak, you don't have the stars gelling yet. They've only played, I think, 7 games together. But I mean, you can't be upset with a 5-game winning streak. They're now second in the East. And it was nice to see them hold a team under 100. I didn't know they were actually capable of doing that. So the fact that they could do that and better yet against the Lakers, even without AD all being said, but that was probably the most impressive win. And my number one thing that makes me happy is they have a better record against teams above 500 than under. So it makes you question, is it just motivation? Like maybe when they get in the playoffs, can they really keep winning? Because they're there. Like they beat the Clippers, about a week ago or so, maybe a little longer. Like it seems when they had the big games, they do show up and then they'll come in and they'll play like the Hawks or something and lose. You're like, okay, where'd this come from?
That's absolutely, you turn up for your competition. And that's what all these teams are figuring out. They use like the beginning of the NBA season as an off season. Let's figure it out, especially with such a shortened off season where they're like, oh, hey, by the way, you're playing December 19th and go. It's like, how do you get these teams to gel? Just like you're saying, like that's the key in the playoffs when they're trying to figure out whether it's Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, who are all playing. Even though I knocked Rohan the other day for saying Kyrie's a top 10 player, they are actually all playing like top 10 players. Kyrie's stats pretty much the same as Stephen Curry, who's having an MVP caliber season. The only thing is Kyrie had this, few games off because who knows what, whether it was political issues or, I don't know. He still hasn't come out and said what, we all want to hear, but he took a couple of days off and James Harden tanked in Houston and Kevin Durant's had a couple of days off. So it's like none of them can really win MVP because they're all together and because they all are missing time. But at the same time, they all have amazing statistics and James Harden's playing like one of the best point guards in the game. He's taking shots out of his hand and understanding, okay, I'm the guy that has to adjust. This is not my team. This is Kevin Durant's team. And when Kevin Durant's not on the court, this is Kyrie's team. I'm the guy that's going to handle the ball, dish it out to everybody because I'm the best facilitator on this team. Those guys are amazing, amazing, talented players. As we said time and time again, Kevin Durant's one of the best scorers of all time. Kyrie Irving's one of the best ball handlers of all time. But how do you make that gel under playoff circumstances? That's really the question that we'll have to wait till May, June to figure out.
I'll tell you now, it's going to be fucking the Nets destroying people. They're putting 150 points up a fucking game. It is fun to watch them. And the fact that they held the Lakers under 100 without Anthony Davis, you saw LeBron going over after the game, giving Anthony Davis a little talk. He's like, listen, motherfucker, we're like, we need to step our game up now.
Yeah. This is the plan. This is the plan.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think they found it out. I think I was reading somewhere where they were saying like Kyrie basically told Harden, he was like, you're the point guard and I'm the
shooting guard.
Yeah, he was like, I think they figured it out. I think they're all there just to win a championship, and this is what I like seeing. Like
I've noticed the last couple games, the Nets had 23s, and then 17, and you could see a little bit, almost looked like a little bit of Houston there with D'Antoni. He's running the offense. There's definitely pass, shoot, small ball been working for them, and that could just be a product of a lack of Durant. But you felt like, oh, James Harden's in control, and he's playing it just like Houston, kicking it around, shooting the threes. And just scoring that well with them. It looked really good to watch. I like that.
Yeah.
You're a mouth to God's ears.
How do you guys feel about Luka Doncic right now? I don't really know what to feel about him. He's having a pretty good year. I mean, he's almost averaging a triple-double, but it kind of feels like a Russell Westbrook, like MVP campaign type of feel where it's all him. He's averaging 29, 9, and 9 right now on 48% shooting, 34 from threes. His only weakness is threes, but he is like super young. And he's a lot of time to figure out his game. And I just don't feel like Kristaps Porzingis is good enough to be a number 2. I'm unfortunately saying this, but they don't really have the team that's good enough to, do something special in the playoffs.
Tim, you should find some of their defensive statistics because I think they suck at defense.
Awful. Yeah, it's really bad. There's a lot of teams that are garbage at defense. Like the Blazers, everybody tells me, yo, watch out for the Blazers. And I watch, like, Damian Lillard's amazing, but he got, snubbed, I guess, from the NBA All-Star Game starters. He wasn't on that list, but so was James Harden. James Harden was not on that list. Kyrie got the nod, and Bradley Beal got the nod there. And then the West Coast, Luka and Curry got the nod over Damian Lillard. But yeah, the Blazers have awful defense. So Damian Lillard can't be an MVP caliber if it's like that. And can they even win the first round if they can't guard anybody? I'm worried about that team. Dallas and even the Denver Nuggets, even though how good is my man Jokic, Nikola Jokic, like MVP by far. Like, yeah, LeBron's having an amazing year. So is Joel Embiid, but Nikola Jokic is the MVP right now. But his team can't play defense, and he's not the best defender. Joel Embiid's a much better defender than him. And LeBron's actually playing like a top 5 perimeter defender. I'm like, oh, he thought his joke was like, AD's going to be the young guy. It doesn't matter. He's going to be the guy to take over in the regular season. Then, of course, Anthony Davis is hurt again. Like, this guy can't stay healthy. And I want to pronounce him to be the number 2 player in the league. When honestly, I put together my top 50 list. He's not in my top 10 right now. It's wild. There's so many amazing players in the NBA. But what do you guys feel about Nikola Jokic, Denver Nuggets? Terrible defensive teams. What do you feel, Rohan?
I think they need more from Michael Porter Jr. Like the other night, I was seeing his stats. I forgot who it was against, but he had 0 points and he played like 28 or 30 minutes. It's like, you're supposed to be an offensive weapon. Like other people need to step up. Yeah, I think they just need to get more people to step up around him. Where's Murray? Where's that 50-point Murray? Like, at least put up like 25 a game.
Yeah.
Like, we're just looking for consistency here. I don't think they're consistent.
Yeah, I got Jamal Murray at 44 right now. But if you ask me in the NBA bubble, I'm like, yo, this guy's top 20. So it's like, where did he drop off to? It's unbelievable. Like you're saying, though, their top 3 players aren't great defensive players at all. What the Jazz have, who knows who their best player is? Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. They're all amazing. They all honestly can make the NBA All-Star game. I have a list of 22 reserves, even though they're only going to pick 7 from each conference. They have to pick 2 backcourt players, 3 front court players, and 2 wild card players. And like I said, they're going to announce that on February 23rd. I like the Utah Jazz so much, man. It's unbelievable. They can win the NBA championship. They got this fighters mentality like the San Antonio Spurs had when Ray Allen hit that corner 3 on them, and the Miami Heat, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh won the championship, and the Spurs came back. It's like, yo, this is our year. The Denver Nuggets did that to them in the NBA bubble. Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell went bananas, and unfortunately Mike Conley missed that game-ending 3-pointer. It was literally in the basket. It almost went in, and that was the most like heart-wrenching game I've ever seen. Like it was close. I'll be honest though, the Ray Allen shot. I mean, I am a Miami Heat fan, but the most I've ever reacted to one play in my entire life, sports history, was that Ray Allen 3. I literally jumped over my couch. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that before. I was
trying to get back in the United Center, was locked out also.
Oh my God. I didn't know what to say. I was speechless. I was like, what just happened? Like, it was pinpoint perfection. He didn't even like put the back of his heels on the ground. It was like tippy toe the whole way. Back pedal, bang. Oh my God. That was so good. But we got to review that series. I know I brought it up before, but the Nuggets versus Utah Jazz NBA bubble, little NBA rewind. We definitely got to do that for the nerdy sports audience.
Well, right now, would have a rematch. The Jazz are 1, the Nuggets are 8. So you could be looking at a rematch in the first round. And I definitely agree with you. Like, some teams you lose a 3-1 lead and you just implode and never come back. Utah looks like they're coming like the Spurs the next year. Like, we are learning from our lesson. We're coming back with a vengeance. We are so dialed in, laser focused, ready to go.
Yeah.
Love what I'm seeing there. As far as to touch on the MVP you were talking about before, I love the Joker, but no way MVP, 38 seed. And normally the rule of thumb is kind of at least a 4 seed or higher, if not really more like a 3 or 2 seed or higher. Outside of Westbrook's triple-double year, you go back and you look at it, and there had been like one MVP in 30 years that's won less than 50 games. Now we're in a shortened season, so that adds up this year to more like 44, 45. But we've established the rules. I don't love them. Like, Jordan could have won a bunch more times. LeBron could have won about 5 more times. We kind of know they have these unwritten rules in the MVP. And so you could look at it and say, okay, at the 8 seed is not even going to be a factor. Giannis 3 times in a row, and they're only and they've actually lost 5 in a row. Not going to be a factor. You don't get 3 in a row. Like, there's certain kind of unwritten rules. So whether they should or shouldn't, that's one debate. But you know how the rules are going to work, and it's not going to be a team in the 8 seed. It's not going to be Giannis for 3 in a row. You could just write them off right now. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's true. Yeah, I think Russell Westbrook was a 6 seed then, and I even argued, I'm like, they're not a good enough team for him to be the most valuable player. They were just juicing his stats. Like, same with, like, I feel the Blazers, going back to my point before, the Blazers, the Mavericks, and the Nuggets, they're all kind of in the same boat, where it's like we thought they were going to be a lot better than they are, and they're good enough to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're really good enough to win 1 or 2 rounds in the playoffs, even make the Western Conference Finals. I see.
Better step up, or they're not going to make the playoffs.
Absolutely, that's true. That's absolutely true. The Grizzlies are healthy. John Morant's gonna come at them, and who knows what they could do. I'm really excited about so many teams. And the Phoenix Suns, where are they right now? They're playing really amazing ball.
They're playing well. Yeah,
they're like 4 or 5 maybe
right now.
Fifth.
Got the 5th seed.
Yeah,
the Hornets are playing well too. The Hornets.
Your Hornets. Your LaMelo Ball.
They're keeping up.
Gordon Hayward Hornets, of course.
You might say the Hornets are balling right now.
Yeah.
No, I know, man. I know. I just, dude, so good. Keep it up, man. They're fun to watch. They're an NBA pass team. Hey, I talk about the Phoenix Suns all day. Chris Paul's one of my favorite players. I'm begging for Devin Booker to be a 4th quarter guy. Like, please, please, please. The other day, I don't know who they were playing, but he scored like 16 first quarter points. And they let up like the largest. The Nets. They let up the largest
4th quarter defense. No points for Booker. Gets shut out in the 4th quarter. I mean,
absolutely. He scored 6 points after the first 6. It was awful. And Chris Paul had an amazing 4th quarter, and they still had nothing. What were they down by? Like 21 points at the end of the half or something.
The largest part in the game was 24 was the highest point, blown lead. Largest blown lead, dude. Maybe in like franchise history there.
And it was only Harden. But going back to your point, like Harden, Kyrie, and KD, they got to all play together consistently and like get some games under their belt together. KD can't just be cheering on the bench like Anthony Davis. Like they gotta figure something out before the playoffs. But
when he was there, like him and Kyrie were scoring 30 and Harden was scoring 20, but he had like 10 assists because he was point guard. So I think they're still going to make it work at the end of the day.
Dude, it's unbelievable. Kyrie, like I was saying, is just like Stephen Curry. So Kyrie Irving's averaging 28 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 53% shooting, 43% from 3, which is elite. Only Steph Curry really averages that. Steph Curry is averaging 30 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 50% shooting, 43% from 3. So what's the difference? Literally nothing. Like one's on a team with 2 top 5 guys and the other guy's carrying his own team with James Wiseman and Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins, a bunch of guys who are like kind of trying to figure out, like Draymond Green's like, am I still an elite guy? Andrew Wiggins, am I a bust? I don't think he is. I think he's actually one of the most underrated players in the game just because everybody counted him out in Minnesota. And James Wiseman, a rookie, trying to figure it out. And like Kelly Oubre, a guy who couldn't hit a 3 for the first month of the season. And it's like, okay, Steph Curry all day, double team, triple team. Like, where's he? Oh my God, what do we do? Like, even when he doesn't touch the ball, he's getting multiple defenders to react to him. But that's what Kyrie does. I saw a clip the other day where Kyrie, it was like his ball handling. Oh my God, it was just a ball handling showcase, right? Of course, Kyrie. And there was one play when Anthony Davis was on the Pelicans and he was the off-ball defender, and he literally dropped. And he wasn't even the guy defending him because he was just trying to react to the secondary move. And he literally dropped 2 guys on one play. He broke 2 guys' ankles on one cross-up. It was on the jump with Rachel Nichols. Unbelievable guy, this guy Kyrie. But it's all about chemistry at the end of the day. Going back to our NFL talk, it's like you need something to flow and you need motivation. And the Utah Jazz are playing like the Chicago Bulls of the 90s. I know that's bullish, but they really are. Bullish. Yeah, Donovan, bullish, exactly. No pun intended. But Donovan Mitchell's playing like an elite guy. As I put together this top 50 list, I just love lists. And it makes me think heavily about like, all right, who's better than who? And like, where do I rank these guys? And like Fred VanVleet, all of a sudden, an undrafted guy, he's like, whoa, I think he could make the reserve list. I wouldn't be shocked if Mike Conley makes the reserve list. He's actually never made an all-star game before. I feel like the media, talking about Scotty's media rules, I think the media may just give him a little pity vote. Be like, because he's on the best team, he's the biggest difference maker on that team, because he's a newcomer coming from the Memphis Grizzlies. All of a sudden, this team's the number 1 team in the NBA. Why not give him his first all-star nod?
Yeah. Isn't it sad how many like good players are coming out of Minnesota? Like you got Wiggins going somewhere else doing well. You got Mike Conley. Like something's up with Minnesota. They need to figure
Mike
that
Conley,
out.
he's Memphis. But yeah, both of those organizations are pretty similar.
Yeah.
But the Warriors are loving it because they got their pick, and they see them literally in the bottom of the league, and it's like, okay, I love this. Like literally, D'Angelo Russell is their most valuable player right now because of that trade. It was a fleece of a deal. I'm a Warriors fan for sure, just because I feel that the organization does the right things. And boom, once again, even though they miss Kevin Durant, they're like, no, we'll figure it out. Let's get Andrew Wiggins, a devalued asset, just like Leonard Fournette, just like Antonio Brown, and maybe Sam Darnold. We shall see. Scotty, anything else you want to share with the nerdy sports audience before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I just pops in my head. You think Minnesota? I'm like, is it in the water? I don't understand. They have talent, just keeps coming in there and then just leaves. They don't do anything with it. The NBA, it's interesting. I feel like there's a big traffic jam, like more than usual. Like there's so many teams that are right around the same record, and then on top of that, this will be the second year we're doing the 10 teams getting in, and then you have like the play-in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see all these players in there. It definitely feels to me like this giant traffic jam. You just want to see who's going to start getting out and merging ahead. The Jazz taking a nice lead here. Lakers, Clippers. After that, it's like the next 5 teams are separated by like 3 losses. So that's interesting. I'd love to see right now, Nets are 2nd, Knicks are 7th. If we could see a little Subway Series, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and Derrick Rose going to the Knicks too, joining Tom Thibodeau again. His MVP season coach back when he was with the Chicago Bulls. I'm excited to see what happens with them. Like they got Emmanuel Quickley, one of the best point guards, rookie point guards in the game, coming out with a beautiful season. And Elfrid Payton, a guy who, all of a sudden got a haircut, comes from the Orlando Magic, and he's their starting point guard right now. With those 2 guys on the bench, it's like they have a deep team. I'm excited to see what the Knicks could do. And Julius Randle, maybe he makes the All-Star game. A guy who didn't want to play with LeBron James. Yeah, absolutely should. He's having. He's
the
better
NBA
season
is better
than Anthony Davis.
when the Knicks are relevant. If the Knicks are relevant, the NBA is just better overall, no matter what. I'm not a Knicks fan. I'm a Nets fan. And so it's even like the rivalry. I don't care. The NBA is a better sport when the Knicks are relevant. What I'd love to see them is make the playoffs, maybe win like 1 game even, and then next year you could really make a better year. But you just need to be calm and stay out of the media. The Knicks are actually better when they're quiet right now. Let them be known for playing well and not for kicking Charles Oakley out of Madison Square Garden or something.
Yeah, I would love to see the Knicks and Nets face off in the first round of the playoffs. That would be great. And if Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, by the way, the only players in NBA history, only teammates in NBA history to get triple doubles in 2 different games. They just did it the other day, I think last night, versus the Sacramento Kings. I love those two together. And if they could take up, even though they're having an awful regular season, if they could get the 8th seed, just like you guys are talking about, go up against Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. I would love a little rematch with that. Oh man, I'm looking forward to. We got so much to talk about. We got the Australian Open finals. I'm literally on Australian time right now, sleeping. Literally woke up at 6 p.m. today just to stay up because these matches are at 3:30 in the morning, and I'm such a tennis junkie myself. I just released a video with my morning walk. I was just reflecting about how amazing Novak Djokovic is, and the fact that he's in his 9th Australian Open finals, and he went 8 for 8 so far, and he could get another three-peat after winning 2019, 2020. We got the Champions League round of 16. The second leg is, coming up in a couple of weeks. And we got the second half of the draw coming up next Tuesday and Wednesday. We got MLB season coming up in April 1st. As we said before, the NBA All-Star game is on March 7th. There's so much sport to talk about, guys. I'm so excited for so many things here. But I just, I think we're going to keep this NBA All-Star game draft for when the NBA releases their reserves. I think that deserves a full podcast. And, we had a lot to talk about with the NFL this podcast. So I hope you, Nerdy Sports audience, enjoyed. And as always, Rohan,
keep it nerdy, nerdies.
Keep it nerdy.